Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Manchester United retaining Eric Ten Hag for next season, Ronaldo's brace against Ireland and his chances to be the starter game in, game out, leading Portugal's front line at the Summer European Championship. We continue our series of previewing each group today of Euro 2024. Today's turn is Group E. And we talk about some of the dark horses for this summer's European Championships. And then make sure you stick around for the end of the show. I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the top headlines going on around the world of soccer. Before we start, I would like to ask that you like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show, so to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps you grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We start off, quite frankly, with the news coming out of the United camp, sources close to the situation saying that United will retain Eric Ten Hag for manager next season after this review that they did. It's also been understood that United are now negotiating some sort of contract extension with Eric Ten Hag, who is entering next year with his final season. It is interesting conversation. Now, obviously, Eric Ten Hag's last game as the manager of United before the season end was winning the FA Cup final as they defeated Manchester City at Wembley, despite all the noise going around of him being sacked. Instead, United were able to win that game 2-0, and it prompted the club to do some sort of end of season review, which took a more positive viewpoint on the season based on what happened in that game. There was constructive conversations that occurred throughout this end of season review with Ten Hag, and the outcome is he'll be staying. It's obviously Eric Ten Hag is happy with the situation. He wanted to stay at Manchester United. You could tell the way he, the passion he was speaking before the FA Cup final, after the FA Cup final. And he doesn't, they were able, after 2 weeks of doing this end of season review, they were finally able to, make this decision. Now, there's no denying, according to the sources, that United did go out and speak with the representatives of McKenna before the FA Cup final. They also talked to Thomas Tuchel, who ruled himself out. The club was also said to be interested in Mauricio Pochettino. So there's no arguing there that the United were looking at other managers. They were also linked with Graham Potter, Thomas Frank, Roberto De Zerbi, Gareth Southgate. Now, all of these were just links, and there was no communication known from Manchester United's board. But definitely amongst Thomas Tuchel and Mauricio Pochettino, it definitely seemed like there was interest from Manchester United, and that's inarguable according to sources. That is facts. That is what credible sources have been reported. So, you may look at it from an angle that Eric Ten Hag should feel some type of way about it, but it's also reported that he's in good spirits, that he's happy with staying at Manchester United, and there's no negative feelings amongst the two, which just shows how dedicated Eric Ten Hag is to this United job. Obviously, he still has belief. You could tell in the confidence that he speaks, and he really does believe that winning that FA Cup final was a moment into the right direction, despite the horrible season that they had. And I think it's very crucial to remind everyone, that FA Cup final didn't almost happen. They almost did the opposite and really embarrassed themselves and almost lost to Coventry in that semifinals. And man, it would be completely different conversation if Haji Wright was 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter closer to the halfway line, it's a whole different conversation. And it just shows the fine margins of the sport of football that goes from potentially definitely United's worst ever season ever, in the Premier League era, to, an FA Cup title winning season, despite they're still finishing their worst finish in the Premier League era. I think they're worst or second worst, one of those two. Worst finishing season in the Premier League era. Despite that, they still had an FA Cup title that Eric Ten Hag could hold his head on, and that wouldn't have been there if it wasn't just for an inch. Now, was Ten Hag staying? There's a lot for him to do at Manchester United. I think also something. Okay, before we speak about United though, I just want to say the way NUS in this new group has handled the situation has been a complete farce. I've said this plenty of times, but with the Glazers, relinquishing some of the football operations to proper footballing men as we thought, it just seems like this club is run just as badly and is still in as much disarray, which still makes me think that the Glazers have some major decision-making power within the football operations, despite this new NUS group coming in with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I don't know, because, the way that they've behaved has been really awful. And, before an FA Cup final, reaching out to a potential manager, or when you look at the likes of the way that they took them 2 weeks till after the season to do an end of the season review, which is crazy to me. It should not take that long. You should be doing the review while the season is going on, while the months are winding down. There's no need to wait till the end of the season to do this sort of review. You know what happened in the season. What is there to discover in those 2 weeks while you do the review that you wouldn't know, the day after or a few days after the FA Cup final? So, Manchester United's board is really in a questionable position in that aspect. I don't think United are a well-run club still to this day, despite this new football operations come in. Glazers are still major owners, so they are still the major guys at the club. So maybe that could be the issue, in the fact that you can't fix the situation with the club till you fix what's at the top, and the top is still there. The Glazers still own majority of the football club. So yeah, that's unfortunate for United fans. Now, as far as keeping Ten Hag, I do have sympathy for Eric Ten Hag in some point of views when you look at the injuries that they've, have dealt with this season, and you look at the performances they had last season, or the results that they had last season, finishing third, winning an EFL Cup, and then winning FA Cup this season, and then all the injuries that they suffered, especially in the defense, relying on, through crucial stretch of the season, relying on Casemiro and an injured Johnny Evans in certain games, having to even rely on Johnny Evans in the first place, it's hard not to feel sympathy for Eric Ten Hag from that aspect. Now, some of the ways that he's reacted in the media following games, excuse making regarding, certain refereeing decisions, or just lack of accountability in the way that the team performed, and just saying things that just rubbed the wrong way of media, of not media, but of United fans, is, that's been very, very frustrating for Manchester United fans. And then the lack of style of play, the lack of knowing, what United we're going to see day in, day out. There's a United team that we see play against Chelsea, which is completely dominant, open-ended football. And then we see the United that go to play against City, and it's not the FA Cup final, but this example, like a City or Liverpool or something like that in another game, and it's just completely dull. They don't even get a foot in, the games in the Champions League against Bayern and all that. It's just like, what is this? What is this? Not getting out of that group stages was Galatasaray and Copenhagen. It's been a horrible season. It has been a horrible season. And also, it's interesting that they go from, looking at potential other managers to, wanting to extend his contract beyond this final season, which for me, that's interesting in the fact that this is not like a player where you risk losing him for free. I mean, if you lose him, it makes no sense to me why, if you have these sort of doubts where you're taking multiple weeks to decide whether or not he is the right man to take y'all forward, to build at this football club, why do you have that sort of, how do you completely 180 and turn it around and say, okay, now it's time to extend his contract on the basis of really questioning his future at United? That's also another questionable part of this. I don't understand the sort of decision-making process this ownership group or this football operations is going through, and this NUS group is going through while they were making the decision to, to keep him, and not only keep him, but also hold contract extension talks. Maybe it's out of, maybe they're doing it out of, guilt, and they want to increase the positive nature between the two, positive feelings between Eric Ten Hag and this United board, because, it's widely reported that they have looked at other managers. Maybe that's why. But it makes no sense to me at all, and it's a difficult position Eric Ten Hag finds himself in, trying to revitalize this United football program. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we're going to discuss Cristiano Ronaldo.
Looking for your daily fix of sport?
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody?
Before the break, we discussed the United Ten Hag situation. We move on to discuss Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo. He scored a brace for Portugal in today's match against Ireland as they defeated Ireland 3-0. They dominated the game, having 20 shots compared to 5 for Ireland and 9 shots on target to 1. 69% possession to 31%, 772 passes to 345. Really outclassed this Ireland national team, which is fully expected. This is a Portuguese team with a vast array of talent, and they're playing this game at home. This is their last game in preparation before they kick off their European Championship against the Czech Republic. Next Tuesday, a week from now, they'll be kicking off their European Championship against Czech. So this is probably going to be, close to the lineup that we might see in that opening game, we assume, because, I'm assuming they want to, go with it. But at the same time, it's not always like that, because, obviously Ruben Diaz was on the bench at this game. He will be starting at that in the European Championship. So, but overall, we saw a unique team. I think the team that we see against Croatia is going to be probably the team that we see at the European Championship opening game. Besides Gonzalo Ramos, I think he will not be the starter. It will be Ronaldo in there instead. But apart from that, I think that will be the starting 11 at the European Championship, the team that went to play against Croatia and actually lost that game. But the main story here is Cristiano Ronaldo. He gets back into this Portuguese team, and he scores 2 goals, and he could have had a third. He missed a free kick earlier where he didn't miss. He hit the crossbar. It was unfortunate. And, it's just, man, this dude, he keeps scoring, goal-scoring records. He keeps breaking the records, keeps increasing his tally as the all-time leading goal scorer for Ireland. He scored both of his goals in the second half. It's really unbelievable. 39 years old, a brilliant goal that he curled in, his first goal, and then now he added another goal. This is 130 international goals and 207 games for his country. It's just phenomenal what Cristiano Ronaldo has done. He played his first games in a major tournament in 2004. 20 years later, he's getting ready for his 6th European Championship. They open up against Czech Republic. They also get to face Turkey and Georgia in a group that they will be heavily favorites in, obviously. And now the main question is Cristiano Ronaldo, whether or not he should start. Yes, he's had a dominant year in Saudi Arabia. He's been phenomenal in Saudi Arabia. In terms of goal scoring, they weren't able to win a trophy, but he had 35 goals and 11 assists in 31 matches. And obviously it is the Saudi league, but scoring 35 goals in 31 games is impressive no matter what league you do it in. Even if it's in the MLS, it's an impressive stat. And what will not go away despite, him, getting older and all that, what won't go away is his ability to finish, his leadership, his ability to get in the right areas at the right spot, his footballing brain, the IQ, his ability to be a great box striker. That will not go away. His ability to finish will not go away. His ability to, take set pieces and all that will not go away. Now, there will be certain games where, maybe, in a game that you're going up against, a higher level team and you need to press from front to speed up play and all that. He doesn't give you that in terms of pressing at this age. Now, if you want to play against the better teams that are pushing up, playing forward, and you kind of get forced to play in transition, Ronaldo's not at that point where he can make runs in behind. He doesn't have that blistering pace that he had back in his prime. So that could be an issue with the fact that, he doesn't have that kind of pace no more. And he's not really a transition striker. He's also not going to be a striker that's going to help you in terms of dominant play. His back to goal is, he's decent. He's still quality, don't get me wrong. But, I think he's kind of limited in his role at this point of being a box striker, which is fine against the lesser teams. But when you're going up against the better teams, that will be a problem, especially with the fact that he does not really press. And if you're going up if let's say Rafael Leao is also getting the start, those are two guys that really don't provide you any sort of help defensively when you don't have the ball. They're two liabilities in my opinion. And also another situation Roberto Martinez is going to find himself in. And by the way, this is a Roberto Martinez that's been reluctant to bench players that's had a good run for the national, like Eden Hazard, who has had a good run before, but is coming a little bit late, coming out of their prime. Roberto Martinez has not really shown the bottle to bench a player. So let's say they're going up against a France or something or that nature, 65, 70 minutes in, and Ronaldo, he's just not giving you anything. Does Roberto Martinez have the guts to take him out in a quarterfinal? In a tight ball game, maybe you're down 1-0 or it's 0-0, or maybe even you're up 1-0 and you want to bring in somebody that, will press from the front and, provide a little bit of support defensively as well as what he can do forward. Does Roberto Martinez have that sort of, nerve to bench Cristiano Ronaldo? I don't think so. I think Cristiano Ronaldo could be a detriment, even though he is an asset at the same time. At this point, because what makes him so great his desire, his competitiveness, his spirit is also, in this situation could be what makes, him potentially volatile with, with his issues in regarding not accepting being on the bench, frustration, that might come being subbed in a tight ball game and all that. What makes him great could also be what, causes Roberto Martinez the most headaches at the same time at these summer European championships. So there's positives and negatives with playing Cristiano Ronaldo. Now look, at the end of the day, when you have guys like Rafael Leao, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, João Felix, all that, when you have that sort of quality of player, getting the ball to Ronaldo, getting the ball through, and if they're able to find Ronaldo who can find space in the box, he can be a deadly box striker. He still has amazing finishing ability, and he still, once in a while, he has the legs to run past someone and beat someone one-on-one once in a while, or to leap and get a header. He still has ability in that nature, but in terms of being that transition player that is deadly on the counter, he does not have that kind of ability anymore. And for me, a Portugal team, I think Diego Jota playing in that role, I think he will be a better option, the best option they got. I don't think Gonzalo Ramos, I'm not a big fan of him. I don't think he's, I think Ronaldo will be a better 9 than him. But a guy like Diego Jota, he gives you ability, he gives you great finishing, he gives you goals, he can play in the transition amazingly well. He gives you a little bit of everything. Now, he's not a prototypical 9 in terms of, the height and the stature and all that. But in terms of play, in terms of finishing, he is also a very good option. And he is someone that will have energies to press up from the front. You see what he does at Liverpool. He is willing to press, and he has the high energy levels to press. So I think Roberto Martinez has a huge question to ask himself. And, it's a blessing and it's a curse at the same time for Ronaldo and Portugal. Now, as far as Portugal and these chances at the summer, I mean, you gotta say it's a great team. They did lose to Croatia in a game that was very eye-opening and a little concerning. Especially, that's one of their worst performances since Roberto Martinez came in. But you could also say, that shows like the spirit this Croatian team have, of their ability to perform against teams more talented than them. And that's a good sign for them entering these Euros, by the way, for Croatia. But and also, Cristiano Ronaldo scored 2 goals, but you're not going to face teams as woeful as Ireland in the European Championship. I'll tell you what, you got a good test in Czech Republic and Turkey. Georgia, that's a weaker opponent. That's an opponent that Portugal should take care of easily. But then you move on to the knockout stages and there's nowhere to hide. And I just feel like Ronaldo being on that number 9 position against some of these top teams, I don't know if it's really going to work out in Portugal's favor. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to preview Group E, which includes Belgium, Slovakia, Romania, and Ukraine.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
For the break, we discussed the Ronaldo situation at the European Championship. We now move on to preview Group E of the European Championships, which is comprised of Belgium, Romania, Slovakia, and Ukraine. This, in my opinion, probably, one of the weaker groups at this European Championship. You have two teams that are ranked out of the top 40 at this European Championship, with Romania and Slovakia. You got a Ukraine team that is has some quality in there with the obvious names: Modric, Zinchenko, Adolfbeek. There's some quality there, and on the Slovakia team and Romania team, that's a little bit on the weaker side. Now let's start off with Belgium. Belgium, they completely eased their way through qualification. They finished top of their group. They won 6 games and they drew only 2. They went unbeaten, finishing 20 points. And now they have they were just completely dominant. Romelu Lukaku was actually the top scorer at qualifier. She scored 14 goals in only 8 matches, which is phenomenal. He has a chance to really break history at this European Championship. He only needs 2 goals to reach the top 3 goal scorers in Euros history. Now, this is a Belgium team that's kind of, a sleeper team when you consider the fact that they're not really, there's this perceived notion that they're past their best, which, they don't have the likes of Eden Hazard and that crew, that golden generation. But this is a team that can be slept on. Number one, this is a midfield that's revitalized with Tielemans, Onana, De Bruyne, in my opinion, a brilliant midfield. And then you have a Lukaku who's also revitalized, who's scoring goals at a great time, playing good football in Italy now, yet again, and playing great football for Belgium. You got wingers in Jeremy Doku and Leandro Trossard that have the ability. You get the direct nature of Jeremy Doku that can get past, drive past player and open up space for teammates. You got a Trossard who's a goal-scoring threat. It can be a good option. He's also vertical as well. And, it's a very solid team. I think that midfield and attack is a very strong point of the team. Now, defensively, this team has been aging defensively, and they've did a little bit of a revamp. Now, they do still rely on the likes of a Thomas Meunier and a Jan Vertonghen, which is a little bit concerning. But they've in their last 6 games, they've held 5 teams scoreless. So that's a very good achievement. In the Euro qualifiers, they only conceded 4 goals, and that whole in 8 games, which is it's a very good defensive record. So for me, Belgium is a team that can be slumped on. Was Domenico Tedesco, who came in and revitalized this team, giving them a little bit something different with the Belgium head coach for the Belgium national team. He's had a few shaky moments, maybe the Courtois situation and all that. But this is a team that looks tight. They look together. They know they're not the favorites no more, but they still have brilliant players. They still have ability. They still got new guys coming up, and I'm very, very impressed with them, and I think they'll be a deadly team at this European Championship because of the lack of expectations. I really expect them. If they were able to go into a quarterfinal and potentially have to face off against a team like England, I think they will definitely fancy their chances because they'll go into that game as an underdog. All the pressure will be on England, and when you're going into a game as an underdog, no pressure on you, and you got the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku and Leandro Trossard and Jeremy Doku and Tielemans and Onana, man, they're a team that cannot be slumped on, and they really, I have huge, not expectations, but I do have some expectations of this team. This team is being completely slumped on, in my opinion. Slovakia or Ukraine national team, they're a national team, obviously, politically wise, they've gone through a lot of, major issues regarding, the war and all that. But Ukraine, number one, by the way, this is their 4th consecutive appearance at the European Championship. They finished in the quarterfinals at the last European Championship after finishing 3rd place, but they did go into Scotland and they went to Scotland and they beat I believe it was, who did they beat in that round of 16? They beat Sweden in the round of 16, in my opinion, a very good Sweden team. And, and they moved on to the quarterfinal where they did get walloped by England. Now they have a very good chance, in my opinion, of qualifying. I think they have the 2nd most talented team in this. They did not have the best qualifiers. They needed the playoffs to get it through. They missed out on automatic qualification with Italy finishing 2nd in that group. Now there was some controversy regarding that, but they were still able to get through the playoffs by defeating, I forgot who they defeated actually. I believe they defeated, it was Iceland, yeah. So after defeating Iceland with a game-winning goal by Mykhailo Mudryk in the 84th minute, they move on. And this is also Mykhailo Mudryk that plays very good for his country. His direct nature, his verticality, I think he's primed to have a breakout European Championship for this team. And don't sleep on their chances. I think they are the 2nd most talented team in this group. Dovbyk, he's had a good season this season in La Liga. He's a very, very good striker. He was leading the line for them at the last European Championship. So don't sleep on him. What he did this season at Girona, scoring 24 goals and 8 assists in 36 matches. I think he's a deadly player. He's going to be leading the line for this Ukrainian national team. So do not sleep on that team to get out of this group. Now, I don't think they'll go much farther than getting out of this group, but I think they have a good chance to get out. Now, Romania is a team that they don't have many players that we would know. They do have a strong defense with their center backs, Radu Dragusin, who plays at Tottenham, and Andrei Burka. They played all 10 games in qualifiers, and they had a good defensive record against them. So defensively, they're strong. They open up the tournament against Ukraine, which is a huge game for them, and will really decide, can really decide who might qualify out of that group. Romania, they did, they moved on to the European Championship by getting past in a group with the likes of Switzerland, Israel, Belarus, Kosovo, Andorra. They actually won that group ahead of Switzerland. A Switzerland team that does have huge respect for them. They finished unbeaten in that group, and they do have Radu Dragusin, Enes Hagi from Deportivo Alves, Florian Konan from FCSB, FC Studul Bucuresti, in Bucharest. Players that are not the most, famous of players. Nicolas Stancu from Demak FC. I don't see this team being much of a threat to Ukraine, but the way that they're able to defend is very, very impressive, and they're managed by Edward Irodnasco, who's made them very hard to play against, and I think that will give them a chance in this European Championship. Now, the final team to discuss is Slovakia, who take on Belgium in their first game, and they're managed by Francesco Calzona, and they're the most likely team, in my opinion, to finish bottom. I think they have a little bit less talent than the Romanian national team. They did win 7 games in the qualifying at Euro 2024, which is very, very impressive. But there was not much competition that they faced besides Portugal, and now they're going up in a Group B with very good teams, and they do have a chance to get caught out. Now, a side note, this is Jan Oblak's first major game at an international major competition, so it's heartwarming experience that's going to be for him. So that's an amazing. Oh no, that's Slovakia. My bad. Slovakia's goalkeeper is Dubravka, but as I was saying, this is a Slovakian national team that is going away from the likes of Amir Kamsic, and now led by Skriniar, who's still going to be a major contributor for this team. He's really the heart of their defense, and again, they're a team, they're going to rely on their defensive knacks in this tournament. And again, in my opinion, this is the weakest group at this European Championship. And again, I don't see them really being a threat. I think this group is the major contending group, in my opinion, to not have a third place team go on. I think Romania and Slovakia are not in the class of a team to get into that. So I'll say those two teams will get eliminated. I think Belgium will be comfortable. They'll win this group. They'll cruise by this group. They'll be resting players in their final game. That's how comfortable they'll be. And I think Ukraine will be the second place team to move on. And, I think it's going to come down to... Actually, I don't think Belgium will rest their players, because I think that last game between Belgium and Ukraine will probably decide who wins that group, which is an important to determine, who they face in the knockout stages and all that. That'll be a very, very important game. I look for that to be one of the, big games of this group stages. That'll be in Stuttgart Arena in front of 54,000 people. So, we all look forward to that. Short break here coming up. When we come back, I'm going to discuss some of the dark horses for this summer's European Championship. I already discussed one right now.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we previewed Group E of the European Championship. We now talk about the dark horses for this summer's European Championship, which for me, dark horses is a thing that I do like. Some people, for my opinion, they struggle to define dark horses. I just saw someone list Portugal as a dark horse. I mean, you look at the talent in that squad. How are they really a dark horse? I don't get it. How can someone consider them a dark horse? I think the expectations are up there. They're one of the top 3-4 teams. So I don't know. But okay, it's whatever. Now Croatia is a team that historically has been a very, good choice to be a dark horse. They've been a dark horse at the past few World Cups. In what they have accomplished in 2022 and 2018. Not the best Euros for them in 2021, but in general, they've been a good choice. Okay, they reached the quarterfinals of the European Championship, so let's not say they disappointed, but the last European Championship, the major dark horse, according to a lot of people, was Turkey, and they went on to fail everybody spectacularly. So, now Croatia, again, that could always be a dark horse because they still have plenty of talent. According to odds, they have a 40-1 chance to win the tournament, which is really a strong, very, really ridiculous number for a team that just finished third place at the FIFA World Cup. Ended up losing to the eventual World Cup champions, and they defeated the likes of Brazil on the way there. What they did against Portugal, against one of these so-called favorites, defeating them. Yes, it's in a friendly game, but yeah, obviously I think they have a great chance. I think Hungary and Scotland both have chances to really be deadly, but the thing is the fact that they're both in the same group. I think one of those two teams, whoever, Hungary plays Scotland in, I believe it's their second games, in the group stages. Hungary, Scotland, no, it was match day 3. I think those are two teams that have, they have weapons to create ups, especially Hungary with Dominic Szoboszlai. I think Hungary, in the way that they had their last European Championship, they really should have got in. They played all 3 games fantastically well. They're a very talented team. They're coached well by Italian coach Rossi. Now, a Scotland team led by the Tartan Army, the fans, the presence that they'll have, the passion, and their defensive ability to stay compact, the way they're well managed by Steve Clark. I think these are both teams that are very, very managed well. And a Scotland team, the question of Scotland team is, can they get the goals? Can they get the goals? If they can get the goals, Scotland could be deadly, and so can Hungary. In my opinion, Austria, major dark horse. They're playing amazing football under Ralf Rangnick that doesn't get the respect he quite deserves because of the way it ended, or not the way it ended, but the way it began and ended. Really a short stint at him at United. But there's some ballers in Austria in terms of the way that they play, the style of play, their ability to win the ball high up the pitch and to immediately get the ball in dangerous areas because of the energy levels, because of the desire, the work rate, everyone putting in a shift, everyone being bought into the system, the Ralf Rangnick way of high pressing, gegen pressing, not relying on creativity, but rather relying on just winning the ball in dangerous areas, and that being the form of creating chances, and their high line and their ability to suffocate people, to win the ball back in midfield, not being afraid to press against the better teams. I think we're going to see that from the opening game against France. I think they're going to go in there. They're going to try to suffocate them. Now, that could lead to problems whenever you're playing against Mbappe and Dembele in transition. But, I think this is an Austria team that, for me, you cannot sleep on them. They're not going to win the European Championship, but I think they have a chance to, make a run. Now, they have suffered a few injuries, including their talisman in David Alaba, but still, in my opinion, they are a killer team and a huge chance to go, to go far. Now Turkey is a team that, again, I'm reluctant to put them in this, not just because of what happened at the last European Championship, but I saw them play against Austria and they lost 6-1, and they were pretty outclassed in that game in terms of losing the ball a lot in bad areas and getting completely suffocated by Austria. But they did finish in the European Championship ahead of Croatia in qualifying, which is a very good accomplishment. And they play some very, very good football since hiring Vincenzo Montella as their head coach. And, they have a guy like Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who's experienced. They also got the young talent in Arda Güler from Real Madrid, who could be due for a potential breakout tournament after a good season, a good debut season for himself at Real Madrid. And they're also a team that, last European Championship, they weren't experienced much. And this season now, with the experience that they gain, don't sleep on them. Now, defensively, Mehdi Demiral, good center back, but next to him was Ozan Kabak. That was the center back partnership that we were kind of see, but Kabak is out of the European Championship, and it's very disappointing because he had a very good season at Hoffenheim. Soyuncu, he's also out for Euro 2024 due to injury. This happened a while back. So, this puts, Turkey in a little bit of a difficult spot at center back. But center back have been the position that they've had depth in over the last few years. So I think they will be able to overcome such loss at that position. Now for me, I think my major dark horse, and obviously they're not really dark horse when you look at the fact that the team that they are, but in terms of, the chances people are giving them, Belgium in my opinion. Now Italy are kind of in the similar boat with no expectations as Belgium, with little expectations, but Italy kind of did it themselves with not being able to make the World Cup, and the quality is just not there, especially on the attacking end of the pitch. For me, Belgium, when you look at the midfield and the attack, it's one of the best in this tournament. When you look at a potential midfield three of De Bruyne, Tielemans, Onana, and then a front three of a Lukaku, a Trossard, a Jeremy Doku, that's a brilliant midfield to attack. Now, they don't have Thibaut Courtois, which is a big, big miss because he is a brilliant goalkeeper, despite my issues with him, with other things. But he is a brilliant goalkeeper, and they will miss him. But this midfield, and, fullbacks, you have a guy like Timothy Castagne. They have the versatility, the Belgians do, of being able to switch from a back five to a back four. They can do both. They have the quality in players to play both systems. And the way that they've looked under Domenico Tedesco, this is I think this is the start of the next generation, and I would not sleep on them to make a run at this European Championship. Now, I consider them dark horses because nobody has them as a top 4, top 5 team to win it. But I think they have a very, very good chance to make a final appearance, especially if the draw open up for them. Now, and look, if they were to play a team like an England, in the knockout stages, I could barely see them pull off an upset against England easily. I could see them compete with a team like Spain, France, Germany. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, for me, this is a team that deserves a little bit more respect. But yeah, those are my dark horses for the Summer Euros. Short break here coming up. When we come back, I'm going to react to some of the headlines going on in the world of soccer. before the break, we discussed some of the dark horses for this Summer European Championship. I now talk about, it's now time to discuss some of the top headlines going on in the world of football, now from or world of soccer, now from a U.S., an American soccer fan. Obviously, one of the biggest news coming out today is Weston McKennie, him going to Aston Villa. Now, really, the big news in terms of world football is the fact that Douglas Luiz is signing with Juventus, which is a little bit of a disappointing move for Aston Villa, who finally get into the Champions League, and now they lose their star, one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, in Douglas Luiz. He's going to be going to Aston Villa, to Juventus, and Weston McKennie will be going to Aston Villa, which now let's discuss this from a Weston McKennie point of view. Is this a good move? Yes. When you look at the fact that he's going to be coached by Unai Emery, that gets the best out of the talent that he has. There's going to be a spot available for him in that midfield with Douglas Luiz going the other way, so he will have opportunities to play. He was not the best in his stint in the Premier League when he was on loan at Leeds United, but this is a different Weston McKennie right now, and that was a bad proposition he entered himself in with that Leeds United side. Now he's going in an Aston Villa team that has a set midfield. He'll be playing alongside with the likes of a John McGinn that does complement him well, and that does a little bit, that gives him, he's a great double pivot, John McGinn, to play next to McKennie. And McKennie led this season for Juventus in terms of assists, and I don't think he ever got the respect that he deserved at Juventus. Weston McKennie, he's a very, very good player. In the way Unai Emery presses, he's going to be very vital. He fits that mold, because they're very good at pressing. They're good at winning the ball back. They have the ability to hold the ball and drive into midfield. And, I think this is a good move for Weston McKennie. They're also going to be playing in Champions League football, so it's not a huge drop-off for him. And you look at it from the fact that Weston McKennie, he's gonna have so many options to get into that rotation. So I can't sleep on Weston McKennie. I think Weston McKennie is a player that doesn't really get the respect he deserves in world football. And, there's people saying, yeah, he's going to probably play 10, 15 games, only start 10, 15 games this season. I don't believe that. I think this is a guy that came in, he led the league, or he led Juventus in assists in a campaign that they finished in the Champions League spot. This is a very, very talented player that gives you a little bit of everything in Weston McKennie. He has that ability to get into the box and score goals. He has the ability to drive forward. He has the ability to create for his teammates. He has the ability to press and win the ball high up the field. He's a jack of all trades. He's a very versatile midfielder. He can play right underneath a striker. He can play as an 8. He can play as a double pivot. He is an important player, and to say he's only going to play 10, 15 games is a little ridiculous, in my opinion. So I don't think it's as bad of a move as, some people are trying to make it at. Gareth Southgate, he has said he's going to be gone. He's most likely gone, or he's going to quit. Most likely, he's going to quit he said, I'll probably quit if England lose the European Championship. England, he said, he talked about how he almost quit after the World Cup, and he questioned whether or not he's the best man to lead the team forward. He's not, in my opinion. But and then now he's gonna make this sort of decision after the European Championship in Germany. Now he told a German newspaper this: if we don't win the Euros, I probably won't be here anymore. Then it might be the last chance. I think about half of the national coaches leave after a tournament. That's the nature of international football. I've been here for almost 8 years now, and we've came close. So I know that you can't keep standing in front of the public and saying, please do a little bit more, because at some point people will lose faith in your message. If we want to be a big team and I want to be a top coach, then you have to deliver in the big moments. But, you know, all those quotes are good and all. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it's the fact that he wants to quit as an England manager, or is that the fact that, you know, the pressure is on him, and, you know, there's a lot of fans that don't believe he is the right man for the job, and he feels unwanted at England because he says if England fail to win European Championship, he's most likely gonna quit. So it's clear that this is not something he necessarily wants to do. Is something that he just needs, it's finally, he's thinking it's finally time, the pressure is just too much. They don't think I'm enough. Let me just, let's just pass the reins on to someone else. And that's sad, but he's not good enough. Let's be honest. He is not good enough. And I think it's good news if you're an English fan. Southgate, when he was talking about this, when he was talking to the newspaper, he discussed a little bit about the backlash that Fabio Capello got whenever he agreed to stay as England manager, despite getting interest from Inter Milan before the World Cup in 2010. And he said, the reason is that there would have been more criticism, which could have put more pressure on the team. England did that once before with Fabio Capello, and there was a big drama before the tournament. It's better to check yourself after the tournament, in reference to potentially, talking about signing a contract extension before the European Championship. It's clear where he lies. The Japanese Olympic team defeated the United States Olympic team in the US's final game to warm up for the Olympics. And, it's a performance that was pretty bad. Shota Fujio converted a penalty kick after 6 minutes, and then Mao Hosoyo scored a goal in the 70th minute, and they won the game 2-0. And this is their last warm-up match for the Olympics. The U.S. Olympic soccer coach Marko Mitrovic said, since we started the process 8 months ago, this was, I would say, the lowest performance by far that we had. I strongly believe that this group can do much better than they showed today. Japan scored their first goal with the penalty kick after Brian Reynolds, who had a shocker of a game, flicked the ball off his right arm on the edge of the penalty area, and then the second goal came after a throw-in by John Tolkien being intercepted by Shunsuke Mito, who dribbled to the goal and was able to find the Hosoya after a deflection, and he tapped it in from point-blank range. Paxton Aronson came out afterwards saying, obviously, it wasn't the kind of game that we wanted to end off this journey on going into the Olympics, but these guys know that one game, and he said these guys don't know that one game doesn't define us. It's a bad position that finds themselves in, with the fact that their next game that they're going to face is going up against the home team of the Olympic Games in France, which is a very difficult task. Now, they also play New Zealand and Guinea, which are teams that they're fully expected to defeat. But bad way to enter the Olympic Games. Walker Zimmerman, 31-year-old, he was the one that captained the U.S., and he was the only one to dress as an overage player. And, honestly, I don't understand that. I don't know if they plan on bringing more overage players. I need to hear more about it. But a bad way to start, and a bad few days in general for the U.S. soccer program, who now are going to play within a few hours, within the next 24 hours or so, going to take on the Brazilian national team, the U.S. men's national team. So, it could only get worse from here. this is the end of the GSMC Soccer Podcast for today. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.